Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, she's become a thought leader in the field of diversity and inclusion. Her incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, in recent years, there's been a lot of pressure on corporate America to emphasize diversity and inclusion. Well, somebody who's been on top of that game for many years before it was even cool is Kelley Johnson. She is the CEO of KEIRUS. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, well, it's an honor. I know you are just blowing up right now. Let's talk about your journey. So you spent a lifetime in corporate America first.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to have opportunities in global organizations as well as in large national companies in the U.S., and throughout that time, I've really blended my background in marketing, corporate communications, corporate social responsibility, and then ultimately really rooting everything within diversity, equity, and inclusion. In 2015, I had a major career disruption. I decided to really take that opportunity to say, what do I want to do next? How can I make a bigger impact within corporate America at more than one organization? And so I started KEIRUS.
Yeah, and I know how scary that is. I mean, I was a reporter for 25 years, as we've talked about, and pressing that button, send, and quitting is a big deal. That had to be scary for you.
It was very scary. I did not take that decision lightly. It was rooted in prayer. It was really just trying to find, what makes sense for me and my family next. And ultimately, you'll probably find that the biggest goal for me is, how do I make a difference? How do I make an impact? And I just felt like starting my own firm was going to be the real key driver for me to do that.
Awesome. We found a wonderful overview video. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
We believe people add value where their experiences are appreciated, when their talents are cultivated, and while their voices are uplifted as integral to the organization's culture, growth, and impact in society. We believe inclusive mindsets emerge from sharing diverse stories and experiences with compassion through human connection. Applying expertise with a history of leveraging DEI for innovation and engagement, our founder, Kelley Johnson, started the firm to be a disruptive agent for authentic workplace culture transformation. KEIRUS derives from the Greek word meaning grace, goodwill, and kindness. Our name embodies the approach we use to create awareness about the transformative approach for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Our purpose? To light the world to create transformative growth. KEIRUS by KJE was founded by a belief that diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion are more than the right thing to do. Our strategic client partnerships, learning methodology, leadership development programs, and support for DEI initiatives incorporate this philosophy. With decades of experience, we yield proven results that elevate human connection and transform cultures. As a values-driven workplace culture firm, we empower organizations to succeed through care for their employees, customers, and communities. After all, it is the individual who transforms cultures, and cultures that transform the world.
Wow. And Kelley, you were really on a roll. You just announced a partnership. Tell everybody about it.
We are so excited. So for the last few years, we've been a partner with the Dallas Regional Chamber as a part of their Leadership Dallas program. So every year we have the privilege of helping to develop more inclusive leaders through their cohort program. And next month, on September 12th, we're going to be hosting KEIRUS Evolve in partnership with the Dallas Regional Chamber. It's an opportunity for HR leaders, business leaders, and DEI leaders to come together and really refocus on strategy, navigating what can be a very bumpy environment right now.
Sure.
But we want to help build community and provide some resources.
Outstanding. What's one of your favorite stories of a client you've helped?
Yeah, so we work with a global manufacturer that's based in the Metroplex, and when we first started working with them, their comments by employees and former employees on Glassdoor.com were not very favorable. The company was accused of having kind of a good old boy culture, and within 11 months of working with us, they received their first positive review about diversity and inclusion. Now we're in our second year of partnering with them, and they received their first comment about the employee resource groups that they have. So we're able to see a progression, and they even raised their score on Glassdoor.com in the D&I metric, the diversity and inclusion metric. They raised it by about 0.1, which is pretty significant in this environment.
Absolutely. She's also become a media darling when it comes to diversity and inclusion. We found a great clip on Channel 5. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Custody.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, became a big movement after the death of George Floyd, and many companies made it a priority. But 2 years later, how do you keep it that way? Vince Sims shows us how one local company is helping businesses do just that in today's Community Conversation, A Call for Change.
Let's start off by, first of all, telling us more about KEIRUS by KJE. What is this?
Yeah. So KEIRUS by KJE is a tech-enabled consulting firm and leadership development firm. We focus exclusively on talent, culture transformation, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The firm has been around for about 7 years now, and our name has meaning. KEIRUS is rooted in the Greek word KEIRUS, which represents grace, goodwill, and kindness. We believe that we can make great progress together. We can make positive change together when we approach even difficult topics like diversity, equity, and inclusion with those values.
Why is it important to offer these type of services?
So I think it's important for a number of reasons. Diversity, equity, and inclusion have always been important, but most recently, since the tragic social justice issues of 2020, as well as even the impact of the pandemic and the Great Resignation, what we found, I believe, is that some organizations had lowered the priority level on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so turnover is at an all-time high. Engagement, the war for talent, the ability to attract talent. We're really seeing these issues in the workplace. And we believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion can be powerful enablers to create a competitive advantage for organizations who focus on this in a very intentional, authentic, and strategic way.
As we're now seeing this return to work start to happen and companies are, thinking about this again and welcoming people back, you're studying this and you're looking at this and have a plan about this. Why is this important?
And we wanted to provide organizations with solutions on how to do that. So we published a guide called Achieving Culture Transformation through Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to help companies really think about how do I focus on diversity, inclusion, bringing people back to work, managing this hybrid environment. And we provided some practical tips that individuals can take, leaders can take, as well as on an organizational level.
Kelley, can you give me maybe one or two examples of what some of these strategies are? What do these companies need to be thinking about?
Sure. So we believe education is the foundation for any type of change in an organization. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion training has to be really at the forefront. But it's also, we provide practical tips for leaders to think about, how do I facilitate meetings in this hybrid environment? How do I make sure that employees are engaged and I'm giving them the opportunity to speak up and to share their ideas and contribute fully and authentically? So sometimes it can be as simple as the way that we facilitate a meeting as a leader. Are we looking for the person who's remaining silent? They likely have something really positive to contribute, but sometimes we have to give them a little extra encouragement and a sense of safety to really share their ideas.
And to hear more of this conversation, go to nbcdfw.com.
I think it's unfortunate, Kelley, that in the last few years, it's become very polarizing. So how did politics get inserted into all this? And what do we need to do to get back on the conversation?
Yeah, I can't answer the first part of your question about why politics got involved, because ultimately I see this as a business driver. At the end of the day, and I think you and I have this in common, I want to work for an organization that's winning, that's profitable, and we need people to do that. We need great talent. The competitive landscape to attract great talent has become more complex, and so organizations who want to be relevant, not just today, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, we have to have a focus on diversity and inclusion.
In the final minute, how does one know when they need to bring in a Kelley Johnson to right the ship?
Yesterday, because this is not a one and done. We can't say, oh, I've done bias training, so we're good for the next 10 years. This is an ongoing aspect of just really integrating into your culture.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to leave with the website, which is KelleyJohnsonEnterprises.com. The great Kelley Johnson. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's
That's
been
it
fun.
for now. We'll see you next time.